So what is it we're actually looking at here? So this is essentially the next evolution of DevOps. So DevOps introduced us to development practices within an operational context. So DevOps is about bringing things like unit testing and as code to operations. But infrastructure as code and configuration as code, when combined and when you use the more modern tools, modern methodologies, actually takes all of that to a completely different level. What you actually end up with is a much more rigid, streamlined process that's faster, better automated, and drastically reduces the error rate, and also gives you a very consistent output each and every time. We're also moving away from graphical user interfaces, web consoles, terminals, whatever other interface that you may be accustomed to using, and we're now moving towards a future where instead of using consoles to edit infrastructure, we're just going to be using consoles to see what infrastructure we have, to visualize that infrastructure, and instead changes are going to be made via code. So you're going to log into you're going to open up your text editor, you're going to edit some code, and then you're going to commit that via Git. You're going to push that, and then an automated process is going to take over from there, completely hands off, and hopefully if your tests pass, you will end up with that code live in production, ready to go. We're also now more seriously focusing on stability and repeatability, which is what infrastructure as code and configuration as code give us. They give us a lot more stability, and they give us a lot more repeatability because we can just keep running code over and over again. And we're learning a lot about how we should do this from other disciplines like software engineering, because software engineers have been doing a lot of these things, all of these things in fact, for a very long time. They've been doing them for decades. And so public cloud gave us questions like, why can't the network be defined as software? Why can't compute be defined as software? Why can't the data layer be defined as software? And indeed, it went ahead and answered those questions and now provides us with all of the compute and networking resources that we need as software. Okay, makes sense, doesn't it? But now infrastructure as code and configuration as code takes that to the next level and actually abstracts away the cloud provider to a degree and puts the cloud provider behind a wall of text, a wall of code. And now we've further enabled ourselves to implement more of those disciplines that we're learning from software engineering, like unit testing, integration testing, before we actually deploy our infrastructure, before we actually make it live. So now everything's defined as software, and that means that we can now move forward with defining our infrastructure as software and defining our configuration as software. And that's why we're now seeing this as code movement, because software is essentially eating the world.